Have you ever walked into a room and completely forgotten why you went there? Then wondered if this is just the beginning of losing yourself? Picture this. Millions of people over 60 wake up each morning feeling a little more disconnected from their own minds. They struggle to find words that once came easily, feel exhausted for no clear reason, and watch their loved ones exchange worried glances when they repeat the same story for the third time. They visit their doctors hoping for answers, only to be told that these changes are simply part of getting older. But what if I told you that behind many of these symptoms lies something that most medical professionals completely overlook during routine checkups? There's a silent thief stealing the sharpness from countless minds, and it's not what you think. It's not genetics, it's not inevitable aging, and it's definitely not something you have to accept as your new reality. What I'm about to share with you could be the missing piece that explains why your brain doesn't feel like it used to, and more importantly, what you can do about it starting today. Number 1. Vitamin B12 deficiency in the elderly. When you turned 60, did anyone warn you that your body would quietly stop absorbing one of the most important nutrients your brain needs to survive? Most people have no idea that their stomach is slowly betraying them, producing less and less of the acid and special proteins needed to pull vitamin B12 from their food. It's like having a key that no longer fits the lock, no matter how nutritious your meals are. This isn't your fault, and it's not something you did wrong. Your body is simply changing in ways that doctors rarely explain. The delicate lining of your stomach, which worked perfectly for decades, begins to thin out. The medications you take for diabetes or heartburn, prescribed to help you, are actually blocking this vital vitamin from reaching your brain. Yet when you mention memory problems or feeling tired all the time, most doctors will look at your age and assume it's just normal. Here's what's truly heartbreaking. Nearly half of all seniors are walking around with dangerously low levels of B12, and their doctors don't even know it. The blood tests that could reveal this deficiency aren't part of routine checkups. You have to specifically ask for them. Meanwhile, your brain is slowly starving, and everyone around you, including your physician, thinks your symptoms are just part of getting older. The solution is simpler than you might imagine. Request a B-DUES blood test at your next appointment. Don't let anyone brush off your concerns about memory or energy. Your brain deserves better than being dismissed as a casualty of aging. Number 2. Symptoms and consequences of B12 deficiency. Have you ever stood in your kitchen, unable to remember the word for that thing you used to flip pancakes, feeling embarrassed and frustrated while your family waits? Or maybe you felt like you're walking through life in a fog, where simple conversations become exhausting and your thoughts feel tangled up inside your head. These moments aren't random signs of getting older. They're your brain crying out for help. The cruel irony is that B12 deficiency disguises itself as the very thing we fear most: dementia. You might find yourself snapping at loved ones for no reason, feeling sad without cause, or struggling to keep your balance when you walk. Your hands and feet might tingle as if they're falling asleep. You feel bone-tired even after a full night's rest. 2 or more of these symptoms together should set off alarm bells, not resignation. The most devastating part is watching families accept a diagnosis of early Alzheimer's when the real culprit is something completely treatable. Imagine the heartbreak of believing your mind is permanently slipping away when all you actually needed was the right vitamin. Some people spend months or even years in this unnecessary darkness, their relationships strained, their independence fading, all because no one thought to check their B12 levels. But here's the beautiful truth that changes everything. When caught in time, B12 deficiency can be completely reversed. People who felt like they were losing themselves have walked out of their fog in just weeks. If you recognize yourself in these symptoms, don't wait another day to get tested. Number 3. Importance de la vitamine B. 12 pour le cerveau. Pensez à votre cerveau comme un système électrique sophistiqué, avec des milliards de fils qui transportent des messages d'un bout à l'autre. Now imagine that the protective coating around those wires is slowly deteriorating, causing short circuits and miscommunications. That's exactly what happens when your brain doesn't get enough B12. This vitamin is like the maintenance crew that keeps your neural wiring in perfect condition. Every single day, your brain cells are rebuilding themselves, creating new connections, and producing the chemical messengers that control your mood, memory, and thoughts. Without adequate B12, this process breaks down. Your neurons can't communicate properly, the insulation around your nerves wears thin. Your brain literally begins to shrink faster than it should, losing precious tissue that holds your memories and personality. But here's what gives me hope, and should give you hope too. Researchers at the University of Oxford discovered something remarkable. They found that people with healthy B12 levels can reduce their risk of brain shrinkage by 30%, 30%. Cela signifie que le maintien de niveau de B12 correct peut aider à préserver le cerveau que vous avez passé une vie à remplir d'expériences, de sagesse et d'amour. Your brain has an incredible ability to heal and regenerate when given the right tools. B12 isn't just preventing decline, it's actively supporting your brain's natural ability to stay sharp and vibrant. This isn't about accepting less from life as you age. This is about giving your mind what it needs to keep you fully present for all the moments that matter. Number 4. Dietary sources of vitamin B12. Remember when your grandmother insisted that liver was brain food and you wrinkled your nose and pushed it around your plate? She was more right than she probably knew. That humble piece of beef liver contains more brain-protecting B12 than almost any other food on Earth. Just one small serving gives you more than a week's worth of what your brain craves. But somewhere along the way, we stopped listening to that old wisdom. The foods richest in B12 read like a menu from a different era. Sardines glistening with healthy oils, wild salmon with its deep pink flesh, farm-fresh eggs with golden yolks, and creamy whole milk cheese. These are the foods that sustained our ancestors' minds well into their golden years. Yet many of us have been scared away from these very foods by decades of cholesterol warnings and dietary trends that threw the baby out with the bathwater. The tragedy is that as we age, our doctors often tell us to cut back on red meat, avoid egg yolks, and limit dairy, all in the name of heart health. Meanwhile, our brains are starving for the very nutrients found in these foods. We trade one health concern for another, often without realizing the devastating consequences for our mental sharpness and memory. The key is balance and quality, not elimination. Wild-caught fish twice a week, organic eggs from pasture-raised chickens, and moderate amounts of grass-fed meat can feed your brain without compromising your heart. Your mind needs these nutrients to stay clear and strong, and finding that middle ground could be the difference between thriving and merely surviving in your later years. Number 5. Medication interference. If you take medication for diabetes or heartburn, I need you to pay close attention to what I'm about to tell you, because it could explain why you haven't felt like yourself lately. The very pills that help manage your blood sugar or quiet your stomach acid are also quietly blocking your brain from getting the B12 it desperately needs. It's like having someone slowly turn down the volume on your mind while you wonder why everything seems harder to think through. Metformin, the most commonly prescribed diabetes medication, and those little purple pills for acid reflux that millions of seniors take daily, are creating an invisible crisis in our aging population. They interfere with your body's ability to absorb B12, and the longer you take them, the greater the deficit becomes. After 2 years of regular use, your brain could be running on empty while your other health numbers look perfectly normal. The most frustrating part is that most doctors prescribing these medications never mention this side effect. They monitor your blood sugar and ask about your heartburn, but they don't think to check if your brain is slowly being starved of what it needs to function. You might attribute your increasing forgetfulness or fatigue to getting older, never suspecting that your medication routine is part of the problem. Si vous avez été sous ces médicaments depuis plus de 2 ans, vous devez avoir une conversation honnête avec votre médecin sur le fait de tester régulièrement vos taux de B12. This isn't about stopping your necessary medications. It's about being proactive and protecting your brain while you treat your other conditions. Your mental clarity shouldn't be the price you pay for managing your physical health. Number 6. Illustrative clinical cases. Let me tell you about Roberto, a 68-year-old college professor who began forgetting his students' names and struggling to find words during lectures his wife watched in quiet terror as the man who had captivated audiences for decades started stumbling through presentations and repeating himself in conversations. They both feared this was the beginning of the end, the start of a slow goodbye to the brilliant mind that had shaped so many young lives. When Roberto finally saw a doctor who thought to test his B12 levels, the results were shocking. His levels were so low they barely registered on the scale. His brain had been starving, not dying. Within 3 months of proper B12 supplementation, Roberto was back to his old self, teaching with passion, remembering details, and feeling like the fog had finally lifted from his mind. Then there's Maria Helena, 73, who had become afraid to leave her house alone because she felt confused and anxious about simple tasks like grocery shopping. For 2 long years, her family watched her world shrink as she lost confidence in her own judgment. She felt like she was losing her mind, and everyone around her started to believe it too. The woman who had raised 6 children and run a household for 50 years suddenly couldn't trust herself to make a shopping list. But Maria Helena's story has a beautiful ending. After a simple B-dues test and the right supplementation, she reclaimed her independence, her confidence, and her joy. She's back to cooking for her grandchildren and taking solo trips to visit old friends. These aren't miraculous recoveries. They're simply what happens when we give our brains what they need to heal. Number 7. Bénéfices de supplémentation en B12. Imagine te réveiller un matin et te sentir comme si quelqu'un avait remis les lumières allumées dans ton esprit. The words you've been searching for are suddenly right there. The crushing fatigue that made every task feel like climbing a mountain begins to lift. Your sleep becomes deep and restorative instead of restless and unsatisfying. This isn't a fantasy. This is what happens when your brain finally gets the B12 it has been desperately craving. Most people start noticing changes within the first month. Memory begins to sharpen, like adjusting the focus on a camera that's been blurry for too long. Mental energy returns in waves, first in small moments of clarity, then building into sustained periods of sharp thinking. The irritability and mood swings that may have been straining your relationship start to fade as your brain chemistry rebalances itself. What's remarkable is how quickly the brain responds when it's not permanently damaged. Within 6 to 8 weeks, many people feel like they've gotten their old selves back. The person their family thought they might be losing forever emerges from the fog, clearer and more present than they've been in months or even years. Sleep patterns improve, anxiety decreases, and that sense of being mentally scattered begins to organize itself into focused thinking. The best part is that when B12 deficiency is caught early, there's usually no lasting damage. Unlike other age-related cognitive changes, this is one area where you can literally turn back the clock and reclaim your mental sharpness. Your brain's natural healing power, supported by adequate B12, can restore what seemed irretrievably lost. Number 8. Forms and dosages of supplementation. Not all B12 supplements are created equal, and choosing the wrong type could mean the difference between feeling dramatically better and feeling disappointed with minimal results. Your aging body needs methylcobalamin, the form of B12 that your brain can use immediately without having to work harder to convert it. Think of it as the difference between getting cash and getting a check that you have to drive across town to deposit. The cheaper cyanocobalamin found in most drugstore vitamins requires your body to perform extra steps to make it usable. And frankly, your 60-plus-year-old system might not be up to that challenge anymore. It's like asking someone to translate a foreign language when they're already struggling to remember words in their native tongue. Your brain deserves the premium fuel that works immediately and efficiently. Dosing isn't a one-size-fits-all situation either. If you're severely deficient, you might need high-dose injections initially to flood your system with what it's been missing, followed by maintenance doses to keep your levels stable. Some people need 1,000 micrograms daily. Others need more or less depending on their individual absorption capacity and the severity of their deficiency. This isn't guesswork territory. This is precision medicine. That's why working with a knowledgeable doctor is crucial, especially if you take multiple medications that could interact or compete with your B12 absorption. The right professional will monitor your progress, adjust dosages as needed, and make sure you're not just taking supplements but actually benefiting from them. Your brain's recovery deserves this level of careful attention and expertise. Number 9. Complementary dietary strategies. If the thought of eating liver makes you queasy, don't worry. You have delicious alternatives that can help boost your B12 levels naturally while you work on supplementation. A serving of sardines on whole grain toast twice a week provides more B12 than your brain needs, plus healthy omega-3 fats that further protect your cognitive function. These little fish are like multivitamins swimming in the sea, packed with exactly what your aging brain craves. Wild salmon, tuna steaks, and other fatty fish become medicine disguised as a wonderful dinner. Even scrambled eggs from pastured chickens, especially if you eat the golden yolks, contribute meaningful amounts of bioavailable B12. Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, and aged cheeses aren't just tasty, they're brain food that your grandmother would recognize and approve of. But here's where I need to be completely honest with you. If you follow a vegetarian or vegan lifestyle, dietary sources alone will never give you enough B12 to protect your brain as you age. Plants simply don't contain reliable amounts of this crucial vitamin. The nutritional yeast and fortified foods that work for younger vegetarians aren't sufficient for seniors whose absorption capacity has declined with age. For plant-based eaters, B12 supplementation isn't optional. It's absolutely mandatory for maintaining cognitive health. This isn't a judgment on your dietary choices, it's simply biological reality. You can honor your ethical values and protect your brain, but it requires being proactive about supplementation in a way that younger vegetarians might not need to consider. Number 10. Medical recognition and practical recommendations. The Brazilian Academy of Neurology has finally acknowledged what progressive doctors have known for years. Anyone experiencing cognitive concerns, regardless of age, should have their B-DUES levels checked. This represents a major shift in thinking, moving away from the assumption that memory problems in older adults are simply inevitable. Unfortunately, this enlightened approach hasn't yet filtered down to most primary care practices, where old assumptions still rule. The reality is that B12 testing isn't part of your standard annual blood work. Your doctor might check your cholesterol, blood sugar, and thyroid function, but unless you specifically ask for B12 levels, you'll walk out of that appointment with a clean bill of health. While your brain continues to suffer in silence, you have to be your own advocate and specifically request this crucial test. Don't be surprised if your doctor initially resists, dismissing your concerns as normal aging, or suggesting you're worrying too much. Many physicians simply aren't up to date on the latest research about B12 deficiency in seniors. Come prepared with your symptoms written down, mention if you take metformin or acid-blocking medications, and be persistent about wanting this simple blood test. The test itself is inexpensive and straightforward, but the information it provides could be life-changing. Think of it as a window into what's happening inside your brain, offering concrete answers instead of vague reassurances. Armed with actual numbers, you and your doctor can make informed decisions about protecting your cognitive future instead of just hoping for the best. Number 1. Limitations and additional factors for brain health. I want to be completely honest with you about what B12 can and cannot do, because false hope serves no one. While correcting B12 deficiency can dramatically improve memory, mood, and mental clarity, it won't reverse Alzheimer's disease or other forms of dementia that have already taken hold. B12 is incroyablement puissant pour prévenir et inverser ses propres symptômes de carence, mais ce n'est pas un boulet magique pour tous les troubles cognitifs. Think of B12 as one crucial piece of a larger puzzle. Your brain needs adequate B12 to function properly, but it also needs regular physical exercise to maintain blood flow, quality sleep to clear out mental toxins, and ongoing intellectual challenges to keep neural pathways active and strong. Social connections, stress management, and a diet rich in antioxidants from colorful fruits and vegetables all play vital supporting roles. What B12 supplementation can do is ensure that your brain has the basic building blocks it needs to take advantage of all these other healthy practices. It's like making sure your car has oil before you take it on a long journey. Without adequate B12, even the healthiest lifestyle won't protect your cognitive function as effectively as it could. The beautiful truth is that brain health is largely within your control. While you can't prevent every possible cause of cognitive decline, you can eliminate the preventable ones and give your brain the best possible foundation for staying sharp. B12's correction might be the single most impactful step you can take, but it works best as part of a comprehensive approach to caring for your mind. Number 12. Appel à l'action et à la prévention. Votre prochain rendez-vous chez le médecin pourrait changer le cours de votre avenir mental, mais seulement si vous marchez préparé à poser les bonnes questions. Don't wait for symptoms to become severe or for memory problems to start affecting your daily life. If you're over 60, or if you recognize even a few of the warning signs we've discussed, requesting a B12 blood test should be at the top of your priority list. Write down your questions before you go, because it's easy to forget important points when you're sitting in that examination room. Ask specifically for serum B12 levels, and don't accept vague answers about your results being fine. You want actual numbers, and you want to understand what they mean for your brain health. If your levels are low or even borderline, push for a treatment plan that includes proper supplementation. Remember, this is your mind we're talking about. Your memories, your personality, your ability to recognize your grandchildren's faces and remember the stories that make you who you are. These things are worth fighting for, worth advocating for, and worth the small effort it takes to get a simple blood test. You wouldn't ignore chest pain or severe headaches, so don't ignore the subtle signs that your brain is asking for help. The next video I'll share with you reveals 3 scientifically proven habits that, when combined with optimal B12 levels, can actually rejuvenate your brain function in just 90 days. These aren't complicated medical procedures or expensive treatments. They're simple practices that anyone can implement starting today. Your brain's best years might still be ahead of you. Your brain has carried you through decades of life, holding every precious memory, every lesson learned, every moment of joy and wisdom you've accumulated. It deserves better than being dismissed as a casualty of getting older. What we've shared today isn't just medical information, it's hope wrapped in science. Think about Roberto, qui pensait perdre son esprit brillant, mais qui découvrit que son cerveau avait simplement soif de la bonne nutrition. Ou Maria Elena, qui récupéra son indépendance et sa confiance avec quelque chose de si simple que le bon complément. Their stories could be your story. The fog that may have settled over your thinking doesn't have to be permanent. You now know that nearly half of all seniors are walking around with B12 deficiency, undiagnosed and untreated. You know the symptoms to watch for, the foods that can help, and most importantly, that a simple blood test can provide answers instead of assumptions. This knowledge puts the power back in your hands. Your next doctor's appointment is an opportunity, not just another routine visit. You can walk in armed with the right questions and refuse to accept vague reassurances about normal aging. Your mind is worth advocating for. Which part of today's message resonated most deeply with you? Was it learning that your symptoms might be treatable, or discovering that you have more control over your brain health than you realized? Si cette information vous a donné espoir ou clarté, veuillez la partager avec quelqu'un qui a besoin d'entendre ça. Votre commentaire sur ce que vous avez appris pourrait encourager quelqu'un d'autre à se faire tester next time. I'll show you 3 simple habits that, combined with proper B12 levels, can actually rejuvenate your brain in just 90 days. Until then, take care of that amazing mind of yours.